Hello everyone, it's Margaret here with 60andMe, and this is the second video in the story of my life. You asked me to answer lots of questions about my life and where I've lived and what I've done, and I decided that for at least this second video, I would do kind of a little story of just where I was, how I moved through my life to get to where I am today, and then I would go back and talk a bit about some of the questions. But as it turns out, with the first video, which I believe has been published, and hopefully you enjoyed it, the lessons that I learned as I moved around were the lessons that answered the questions that you raised. So many, I think in the third video, which will be about my values and what I've done, what I've achieved, you'll see it wove together. There was a thread. But anyway, I left you the last time in Boulder. I arrived in Boulder after my mom died in Detroit. I moved to Boulder. Knew no one. I was going to stay with a friend of a friend, and I knew no one at all. Just starting completely from scratch. I had no other reason to stay in Detroit. I just wanted to start a new life. I actually can see myself at the airport. I was wearing a long black coat and black lace-up boots, those kind that lace all the way up to the knee. And I was wearing, a beret hat. Nothing's changed. And I had my little dog, Barney. Barney was a little mix of Cocker Spaniel, kind of collie, border collie. And he was my little soulmate, my friend. And so Barney and I found a little house together, a little one-room, little cottage right near the Boulder Creek, which was, now it's all been torn down and developed, but it's beautiful. And it was my life. And my first job was at Fur's Cafeteria, which was, we've all done this, right? Waitress, cafeterias. And my job was to wheel the tea cart up and down. I was the tea lady, which is another ironic twist. But anyway, I love tea. So I was doing it and wasn't that happy, but it was earning my salary and I was doing okay. So every Thursday, a group of women would come into the cafe and a cafeteria. It was a big cafeteria, not a cafe. And we would chat and talk. And one day, one of the women said, "Margaret, are you happy here? Do you like this job?" I said, "Well, it pays my rent and I'm really happy until I can find the thing that I really want to do." And she said, "Well, what do you know what you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to go back to school. I want to go to college. I want to learn to teach, probably." I wasn't sure. And she said, "Well, would you like to come work for me?" I work at I manage the university bookstore in Boulder. And so I did. I took that job, great job. I learned so much. I was a text buyer, trade buyer, helped on the floor, learned all about books and about people who love books, and it became my life. And it was just a beautiful job. But I went to school part-time, and my degree, after I think it was 5 years, I graduated in 76, was in comparative religion, which is actually part of the religious studies, part of philosophy department. My chairman of the group was Bob Lester. Bob was just an incredible human being. I just love Bob to bits, and he and his team were amazing. But he was one of these people that wanted to teach you not what religion was, but how you experience it, how you experience religion. And so he had us go out to different places of worship. We went to Buddhist temples and synagogues and cathedrals, and we had a voodoo doctor came in and talked to us, and he said, it was so funny, somebody asked me about what are some of my favorite quotes, and I was, this is one of my favorites. He came into our class and he said, "There's only one truth in voodoo, and it's what goes around comes around." And I thought, it's karma. It's just so beautiful. And so he was one of my teachers in life. He was there for 2 minutes. And anyway, that was great. So after about 8 years, I moved to Denver and I lived there for a bit, but then I decided to go. So I returned to the UK. I met a man, fell in love. We had 2 children, and they were just the love of my life. I was just so determined to be a good mother and to keep them safe and loved, and inspire them to do something wonderful with their lives. And I have never been disappointed. They both are the most incredible human beings in the world. And I know every mother says that, but I truly do believe this. I think my children have values and strengths that they learn from me and from their situations. And I'm just incredibly proud of them. I just cannot tell you how much I love them both. And I can talk more about them in a future video, but that's just right now all I want to cover. So I was actually that time also working for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and helping her with her workshops on life, death, and transition. That was around 83, 84. And then I decided that I needed some more money. I was volunteering with Elizabeth, and just the kid I had left the relationship, and I was on my own with the children, and so I decided to go and look for a job. So I decided to go into something completely new. Computer business was just kicking off in the UK, and I took a job with WH Smith Computer Center, and then later on with Computer Center, and did really well. I'm an excellent salesperson. I can sell anything, and I sold computers. And I'll just tell one funny little story. It was the first computer that I ever sold was an IBM XT, and it had a 10 megabyte hard drive. 10 megabyte. Yeah. That's how, I mean, that's what technology was in those days. It's a very warm morning today, so I'm going to just use my fan. Beautiful fan. I just somebody sent me this. It's been lovely, but it's a very warm day, and without turning on the air conditioner, which would drown out I have a little portable one. It would drown out my voice totally. But anyway, so I started working at the computer center. And then, my life got on a groove, and I started to make more money. But it was a life where I needed to put the children into daycare so that I could work full time. And that was the beginning of a period in my life that was very, very stressful from a financial perspective, from a getting on by myself perspective, and just making it work. In about 80, it must have been 86 or so. I was on a train one night. Speaking of places that are serendipitous for me. And I was on a train, and somebody sat across from me, spilt my tea. I had my tea on the floor, and they kicked my tea accidentally. And it was a beautiful man. And I looked at him, and we looked at me, and it was a connection immediately. And we chatted a little bit. Turned out he was also in technology, and we were both kind of in the computer world. So anyway, I gave him my phone number. I gave him my address, actually, and can't remember. I don't think there were email in that way at that time. Anyway, he sent me a letter after the call. Said, further to our meeting on the train, I'd like to get together. Well, that was history. That was my husband to be, and it was just remarkable from that moment. I mean, just the serendipity of it, and he adopted the boys just in his nature, and we had an amazing family life for so many years. It turned out we were at that time we were in the UK, but we moved to Dallas to pursue an opportunity that he had selected. And then when we were in Dallas, he decided to accept a position at Microsoft, and said to me, would you like to do this? Shall we do this? And so I flew out to Seattle, interviewed for some jobs. Microsoft was just brand new. It was like 94. And I said, yeah, let's do this. And I got an offer, amazing offer, managing a small team. The kids really loved the idea of going. It was like, yes, big adventure. We're going to go. And we ended up all working, actually, not all, but just about all of us working for Microsoft at one time or another. So it was an amazing experience. And I can tell you my Microsoft days in another long video, if you'd like, but it was just a career highlight. And I worked for some amazing people. I did some incredible projects. We were at that time fighting competitive battles with different companies, and Microsoft was up against a legal situation with the Department of Justice. So it was just, and I was in marketing and communications. I was working on marketing and selling and promoting the sales force, and also working with our partners, which the people all around the world that were selling Microsoft products. So anyway, I think I'll do Microsoft some other time, because I really could get so into that. But a lot of the people asked me about, what are your values and what were your work experiences? I mean, of course, for me, that was, it always has been the highlight. And especially my last job, I worked for a man called Austin who he taught me so much about work and about values and about podcasting. He was running an art of selling initiative, which was just a beautiful idea about combining the scientists of the world at corporate Microsoft with the sales force in the field, and how to talk to each other. And we started a podcast series called The Art of Selling. And the only reason I mention that is because it gave me all my skills with podcasting and video, and a sense of how much that can impact and bring community together. And I think it was that job. I was there with him for I think 3 years, and it was just my training for 60andMe. It was exactly what I needed to get myself confident and knowledgeable about what it took to build community, build relationships, care from your heart. about what you were doing. And it was such a fun initiative and such a beautiful life experience. So that's kind of the job situation at Microsoft. And then after that, I was sent to after I changed jobs, Austin's role changed, and I moved to New York for 3 months to work with someone who I thought would be a perfect person to work for. I won't mention her name, but you will have known of her because she went on to work for Facebook and did some incredible things. But I moved to New York, loved New York City, or at least I thought I did. I did actually, and but of course her plans changed, and so I didn't stay in New York. Came home to Redmond, found the 39 boxes that I'd shipped to New York, waiting to be unpacked. And that started something that was another big turning point in my life, and that was a downsizing exercise. We've talked about downsizing so many times, but I mean, and part of the reason I'm telling you some of this stuff, guys, is that I know that these life experiences have brought me to where I am, and I bet that you're following along in your life, hopefully thinking, gosh, that was a moment for me too, where I learned something really, really important, or I did something really, really important. And this downsizing exercise started as I looked at these 39 boxes and thought, I didn't need any of that for 3 months. What's in them? And I opened them one at a time and sort of started to dismantle my my world, because I was like, I didn't need these things. So anyway, that was great. And then after that, I was in Redmond, and I decided, 2008 came along. I bought a house in Seattle, but of course the 2008 crash came along, and like many of you, I lost everything. I lost everything. My house, the value collapsed. My mortgage was more than I could afford. All the loans I had were, I just couldn't afford to pay them. And so I just, my life collapsed. I think that was a really challenging time for so many people, but I learned a lot. Not enough. I didn't learn enough about money. I didn't learn enough about buying things that were assets and investing rather than, buying stuff. And, like a car, and I had the beautiful things, right? I had the beautiful life. And I didn't learn that really until the last few years. But I learned enough that I had to downsize. And so that was my next mission. And I downsized everything and made the move to back home. England was like this magnet for me. It was like this magnet that kept drawing me back. And so I came back to London, and I was going to retire. That was the mission. And my by then the children were in their own places in England and in I think at that time one was somewhere another country, but we were separated. I wanted us to all be on the same at least continent, or on the same part of the ocean. So it was wonderful to be able to visit with them and share their lives. And I'll tell you more about that later, because that's a really complicated part of my life. Well, not complicated, but deep. And it's one that I just, I think I would need to share some of it with them before I discuss it with you. So I hope that you understand that. But we were together at least on the same part of the world. And I was living in London, and I was 61 or something. And I decided, well, I'm going to retire. Retire in the sense that I'm going to just start living simply and not work. Siemens came along, company Siemens, and said, Margaret, would you like to help us launch a building? I said, okay, what's that all about? And it was about a building called the Crystal. And it was in London. It was a beautiful, sustainable building, all glass, beautiful, futuristic building. And so I said yes, and it was a 2-year project. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And it was, and I loved it. We launched the building. It was, I got to interview Boris Johnson of all things, but I was like in their PR marketing group, and it was really cool. I've had some good jobs. So we launched the building, and after that, I decided, well, what's next? 60 and me on the horizon. We sat down with my son and I, Nathan, and said, what do you want to do? And I thought, well, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to build a community. We're going to start something bigger and different. So I think I've told you the story about my trip then that winter. They were in Switzerland, Nathan and his wife, and they decided they were going to go to the chalet. We were going to have a Christmas together. And so I got on the train, got to Paris, and had an accident. I fell, hurt myself pretty badly, chipped my teeth, and I fell over near the Notre Dame Cathedral. I was wearing funky shoes. long story. Anyway, I got to, I struggled on to the chalet, and we had the Christmas, but during that time, I have told this story, but I'll tell it, well, just briefly. I got there, and of course I was pretty bumped and bruised and sad and feeling old and not very in good shape. And I sat there and tried to get into the spirit of things, and I got cold sores all over my mouth. And I decided, well, they broke out everywhere, so I couldn't eat, I couldn't laugh, I couldn't talk. And so I just sat in bed the whole time. And my light is going here, so I'm going to try turning on my light and see whether that makes a difference here. Hold on. It's probably too bright, but I'm going to just continue because I could see the light has gone into hiding. I wanted to keep going with this video. So anywho, then I decided, okay, there's got to be other women out there that are dealing with this getting older thing. So I just started a Facebook group, and it said, hey, anybody out there wanting to, talk to me and talk with me about getting older? Any women over 60 that feel like life is just beginning, but they're not really feeling it. They're not able to have the confidence or the ability to do it. And, within a couple of weeks, months, we had 10,000 women in the community, and then it grew to 30,000. And we thought, this is crazy. There's nothing like this for women over 60. This was back in, well, it was 10 years ago. And so we decided, why don't we start a website? Let's start it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I just suddenly, as I mentioned earlier, all the skills that I learned earlier came rushing back. And I thought, yeah, we build a community first. And so we said, well, what are we going to do to make money? And we said, I don't know. Let's just do it. Let's just build the community first. We'll use our savings, any money that we've got. And I didn't have much of that, but we decided we're just going to do it. I worked as a consultant, actually, for some of the time, just part-time jobs to earn enough money to pay my rent. I was in Switzerland, and I'd moved there to be with them. So after, while we figured out some of the things that people wanted to purchase, and we started selling our yoga videos, and I did some makeup videos. We did a few things, and 60andMe then started to grow. So I think I'm going to stop there because I think, again, I've reached like 12, 13 minutes, and I don't want this to be like a huge, long diatribe about Margaret, because it's about you. This story is about you. It's really about the things that you love and the things that you want to do with your life and the milestones that you've experienced. So I'll say that we'll close it here. We're starting 60andMe, the world begins. And then I'm going to, that next video, go deep into some of your questions, okay? Thank you, everybody. This is so strange to be doing this kind of a video, but I hope that you enjoy it and get something from it. And we'll talk again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.